Great. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Alex, for organising this. It's been great so far, and actually, my presentation will be kind of a continuation of Ayesha's, actually, about digital identity and expression. So I'm Jade McSorley, based in London. I'm a co-founder of a fashion rental app called Lonehood, but I'm also a PhD researcher at the University of Creative Arts. Prior to this, I was a model for, well, 10 years before going back to study. And I also worked at the Fashion Innovation Agency at London College of Fashion. So today I want to kind of present something with my researcher head on, to be honest. And I want to have a look at the opportunities and the risks of the digitization of fashion from a sustainable lens. So my PhD research it's a speculative exploration into the role of fashion that crosses the digital realm and physical world. I want to understand the relationship digital world and whether they have a connection to each other or whether they're separate. And this is all through the way that we express ourselves through fashion. So, and I want to understand why do consumers consume fashion for their digital identities. I often see digital fashion being used from a very kind of marketing perspective. It's mainly the brands that are adopting it. However, there's very little attention to actually how the consumers will use digital fashion, which I think is needs to be explored more depth. Hopefully my research will address that. And I want to ask the question, is it a new way, psychological and social impact? So these are three huge areas. So I'm not making my research any easier for myself. So essentially, I want to ask the question, is fashion, if fashion has so much importance in our physical reality, what role will it play within a virtual one? I just want to share a quick video. I hope actually you can hear this. But this is kind of where my journey started. I wasn't aware of digital fashion. This was about 4 years ago, and then suddenly this Carling digital collection came into the media and presented the first digital clothing collection. And it kind of provoked a lot of interested questions about the way that we consume fashion and for what purpose. So hopefully this video will play, but if not, I can describe it and send you the link in the chat. Yeah, it's not going to play, is it? Okay, well, hopefully, oh, there you go. The Wi-Fi issues, technology, hey. While it's buffering, basically the lecture was addressing the fact that we buy clothing for social media, and that in and out more than one, even on our social platforms. And this is highlighted by a study from Hubbub that also said that a lot of consumers of the younger generation were buying clothes for Instagram, and if it's been shown on Instagram once, would not see it again. So digital, our platform is digital, then why can't your clothes be digital? And then that was a need to not produce anything that was physical. So there's an opportunity there to create and produce clothes without needing to physically produce them, and it's a more sustainable solution. Another opportunity of digital fashion is also accessibility. Obviously, Meta launched their fashion store where you could dress in Balenciaga and Thom Browne, and these were all for free, but obviously they're going to be monetized in the future. But again, is it a way of allowing people to dress in those brands that they could normally not afford in real life? But then, and when you look at it, my research does touch upon it, but it's an opportunity for authenticity and exclusivity. A lot of fashion brands use NFTs to kind of open portals for their consumers and offering them, say, tickets to their runway show or something that provides a legacy to that physical product that could not be otherwise achieved without an NFT. So there's a bit of exclusivity there, but then also the NFT with the authenticity, knowing that you own something that's quite rare, is also increasing the value. But then you look at the risks. So this is where my devil advocate hat comes in. Could one thing just essentially be replacing the other? Digital fashion was seen as a solution for consumers to buy the digital version rather than having to buy the physical version. However, as things are growing, we're seeing that actually they're coming together, and you have the NFT, which produces a digital product. So is this just kind of fueling our overconsumption habits? Obviously, we talk about the energy consumption, especially of in NFTs, and also the fact using digital clothes, it doesn't come from nothing. There's energy used to produce that. And is it providing too much exclusivity over accessibility? When we think about sustainability, we think about addressing everybody and trying to make things more inclusive and diverse. But however, are we adapting these technologies in a way that is leaving it kind of, for a certain few instead of for everybody? And there's a social pressure there that is still not been eradicated within the fashion industry. There's always been this social pressure to kind of buy more or wear certain brands. And again, are we fueling this within this kind of digital world? These are just questions that I want to present to you guys as the audience, and it would be really interesting to hear your thoughts upon this. And then I lead within to, digital identity and expression. Obviously, we have digital clothing, but they have to be worn onto somebody, whether that's an avatar, yourself online, or whether it's a digital version of yourself. So these are just a few kind of ways of which you can see people expressing themselves within the metaverse. So is this an opportunity for expressing identity and expression, as Ayesha was showing? This is Damara, this is the image of Damara, and she uses it to express her heritage in her culture. She comes from Mongolia, and she finds these kind of filters which she creates a way of expressing herself in a way that she couldn't do with physical clothes. Express herself in a way that is quite poetic, and it shows a side of her that she wants to kind of get out of her, I think. And is it an opportunity for representation and finding your community? Some of the research that I've done, I've found that online communities are a much safer space for people to share and be open and express themselves in a way in which they really want to see themselves. This is one of the first non-binary avatars that was created by the Institute of Digital Fashion. And again, on the other side, the risk. In pursuit of health and happiness and power, humans will gradually change first one of the features and then another and another until they will be no longer human. Is this something that we need to kind of consider? There are two researchers called Kozinet and Kazizo that speaks about multiphrenic nature, kind of this divided self. If we're creating these multiple identities, one exists in the physical world and one exists in the digital world, are we dividing ourselves, or are we connected in some way? It's kind of a very kind of conceptual idea, but it's something that we need to think about, because how do we retain these kind of origins of identity? When we look at digital avatars and virtual influencers, there's an opportunity there for influence, for positive influence. And we can see little Michaela, she has over 1 million followers and has massive influence within, the fashion world and the music world. She's a singer, she's a model. She's here with a really famous supermodel, Bella Hadid, who's actually a real life supermodel. And she has a voice. But then again, is it a risk of deception and exploitation? Do we need to kind of bring out more disclaimers that they say these virtual influencers aren't real and are controlled by an agency or whoever has created them? It's their voice behind these avatars. Obviously, we have deepfake, which is another issue, which is this kind of video on the side. So that's obviously not Tom Cruise, that is deepfake Tom Cruise. But obviously it's very, I mean, you would think it was if you weren't sure about it. And one part of my research been taking a lot of my time. I'm only in my first year, so there's a lot to go. But as listed earlier, I was a model for 10 years. I was working for e-commerce platforms quite a lot. And when I was working at the Fashion Innovation Agency, I had the opportunity to scan myself photogrammetry and volumetric, which was really interesting to see myself in that form. But obviously, I realized there was value in that, and there was a lot of use cases for my avatar, especially within a modeling capacity. So how can I monetize that? But actually something happened where when I kind of left the employment, I realized I never really actually owned that avatar because it was created in that employment of that company. So it really started making me think of different questions. If I wanted to monetize my avatar, then who owns it? And I actually didn't own it in the end. And when I was doing a lot of these projects, I was realizing there was my motion capture, which had value. There was my facial expression and my facial data that had value. There was my skeletal data that had value. And I started to realize that actually there was some kind of, I call it metadata of the digital self. There's elements in which I could have monetized and profited from that. But yes, there's a risk to my data, who owns it, where's that data stored? And I started to realize this was happening within the model industry, and a lot of models were being scanned by companies and used within e-commerce, but the models knew very little about this technology. Neither did the agencies. They didn't know they were going to be scanned, and there was no contract around it. So I've been starting to look into data ownership and data protection for these models, and working with the agencies closely to understand and educate them. And I did a few focus groups, which I'll leave it on because I think I'm running out of time, with some of the models, some in New York and some here in London. And it was very interesting to see how they see themselves, their digital version of themselves. And they still see it as an image. It's precious. It should be aligned with what they look like, because the farther away from that, the more unreal things are. They felt that their image was of just importance their physical self, because essentially a model is being paid for their image. So whether it was a digital version or whether it was a physical version that's been captured by photograph, they felt it had the same outcome and the same value. And they wanted their virtual self to be aligned with the physical real self, the real world, and to be manipulated in any way. And these are things that we need to lay the boundaries and the foundations. It's great, this technology, it's very innovative, but when it affects a person and it affects their livelihoods, it's some things that we need to consider. And that's it. I just wrote the last slide is quite significant to me in my research. Truth is, human nature doesn't change, and technology does. And every technology allows us to find out a new thing about ourselves. So this innovation is important, but it definitely raises a lot of ethical questions and considerations. And that is it. So thank you. Sorry, Alex, if I went a little bit over there.
Yeah, thank you. Fantastic. I learned from you also, fashion is about the identity, right? Because it's like a self-expression for what? Our identity. So it's a smooth link with Alicia's talk and yours, right? And then also I also saw another thing that maybe the next time Mickey will talk about Web3 DAO or something like that. It's I think that one word DAO will provide a self-sovereignty. So that means that we are the owner of our community. We decide. And then I think that each person has a power, and then with the power, actually, they can express fully about their identity and expression, right? So I think the next topic will be also smoothly linked with yours and Alicia. So next topic will be Mickey's, right? Thank you.